It's, in cohesion with the past few streams we've been talking primarily about, the philosophy of a designer and just the, design principles that are needed to create great designs and build iconic fashion houses. So, you know what I'm saying? Definitely on a, I guess you could say, storyline of building good design habits so that way you can become that great designer you envision yourself to be. So let's get into it. Great design isn't defined by how much you add, it's defined by what you're disciplined enough to leave out. Restraint is one of the hardest skills for any designer because it requires confidence, clarity, trust in your vision. Why more isn't better? Now, on all of our streams, we typically like to have, an opening question, and that is, have you ever looked at a design and felt like it was trying too hard? I would say a lot of the designs that are out here right now are implication of that. You feel me? There's no real cohesion within the design itself. There are some cool joints that have like cohesion with the design, the brand, what it's overall trying to put together, you feel me? But the mass production of, designs are just all over the place. And I can honestly say that, most young designers believe more graphics means more creativity, more colors means more excitement, and, more details mean more value. For me personally, when it comes to the graphics, I'm just a visual learner. So I try to, implement that in my designs. But also, I know when, there's too much in that joint and then there's too little. You feel me? Then on top of that, when it comes to colors, I'm one of those designers that actually has a wide color palette. You feel me? Like I don't shy away from colors like most designers do. They try to stay in the typical framework of, pattern matching. And I'm not really for that. I'm not even looking at it in the sense of excitement. I'm more so looking at it from each color has emotional, I guess you could say definitions. And I try to stand by those so that way I can, of course, implement that joint. You feel me? What's up, Krista Wood? Appreciate you for tapping in on the live. Appreciate all y'all for tapping in on the live as well, too. Appreciate y'all for sending a like. You feel me? What's good? I'm good. You know what I'm saying? We just on the grind out here. Trying, give y'all as many gems as possible, but also, trying to get to, my goals as well, too, as far as for a designer, you feel me? Just trying to, take it one day at a time. This world crazy right now with, how, we going to war and, on top of that, different races is getting criticized and, attacked. So it's just, crazy world right now. And I'm just trying to, give y'all some solid gems so that way y'all can stay positive and focus in on what, y'all trying to do for yourselves, especially if y'all designers as well too. So make sure, you share this live with those that are designers, okay? Let's get back into it though. So when it comes to, having the power of restraint and, understanding less is more, you feel me? Experienced designers understand that every added element competes for attention. Complexity without purpose creates confusion. That's why when I design my clothes, it has a purpose for its complexity instead of, me just putting a whole bunch of prints on a t-shirt or, aesthetic. Every design, you know what I'm saying, decision should earn its place. You feel me? Think about your walk, point out buildings, or you know what I'm saying, just think about your overall, I guess you could say, landscape. You feel me? The cars that's parked out in front of your crib, you know what I'm saying? The buildings that you know, or the bars that you typically would go to on a day-to-day basis. I done shown y'all, if y'all been on my live stream often enough, to where you can see the aesthetics that, you know, I walk by every day. Literally walk by Mexican and Spanish bars. Then on top of that, you know, a lot of homes, a lot of different cars, you feel me? Different races, different people, you know. All these things help you to, you know what I'm saying, create a clean and organized, you know, I guess you could say, catalog of inspiration. You know, your eyes naturally seek clarity on a regular basis. You know, the goal isn't minimalism for its own sake. It is, you know, intentionally just what it is. Every element should have, you know, a purpose. If it, you know, doesn't strengthen the message, you got to question whether it belongs or not. You feel me? So, you know, simplicity versus emptiness. That's the key. Many people, you know, confess simplicity with, you know, doing less, you know, and they're not the same at all. Like, you could be doing a whole lot and still being simple. You feel me? You can do, you know, absolutely nothing and be complex. You feel me? So it's just a matter of understanding, you know, the difference between the two. You know, simplicity is clear communication. That's like me telling you I'm a fashion designer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or I'm a streetwear fashion designer. Like, clear cut day, you ain't got to ask any other questions along that line. You feel me? Gave you the niche. I gave you the overall general landscape industry. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I let you know the specific field as well, too, within it. So it was a clear message. When you sitting there talking about, oh, yeah, my name is Derek, 6'3", you know what I'm saying, 34 years old, been designing for 15 years, that's not a clear message, because literally you're all over the place and you're not giving people, you know, clear insight on what they're asking. That's the difference between emptiness and simplicity. You feel me? You know, intentional choices, strong hierarchy, focus, confidence. Emptiness is lack of thought, lack of direction, lack of meaning. You feel me? Missing functionality, minimal, you know, because there's nothing to say. Here's the question I got for you though. Why does one simple design feel, you know, premium while others feel unfinished? You feel me? That's just like, you know, Ralph Lauren. Like, he just got the logo on his joint. And, you know, it's pretty simple. But at the same time, it's got everybody's attention. And everybody keep coming back to it, you feel me? So it's just a matter of understanding, you know, that horse is a symbolism of, you know, the brand, you know, the overall message of the brand itself, and it stands for something. You feel me? How do you know when, you know, you move too much? You feel me? It comes down to when everything that you remove from that design has literally not aligned with what you already have been putting together, and it just stops aligning, then that means you need to re-add a piece, or, you know what I'm saying, re-add a few pieces. Honestly, the whole thing about it is like I said, if you're saying that you're a fashion designer on the t-shirt, then you should have only things on the t-shirt that, you know what I'm saying, align with fashion design. You feel me? You shouldn't have, you know, just any random thing on the t-shirt that doesn't align with the overall message of what you're trying to put out. A clean storefront versus one covered in signs is an example of this. A quiet street versus visual overload. Another example. You feel me? That restraint doesn't remove personality, it reveals it. Simplicity is difficult because every remaining detail has to work harder. You feel me? Editing is the real design process. You know, design doesn't end when you're creating something. That's when it begins. You feel me? So first, ideas are rarely your strongest. You know, professional designers and reiterate this all the time. You know what I'm saying? Looking at your work objectively, not thinking like, oh yeah, every design is fire, because technically speaking, it's probably not, bro. And as a true designer, you got to understand the difference between when your designs are actually good and when they're not. You got to ask yourself difficult questions each and every time you design something to understand whether it is actually good, what you can actually improve on as well too. And you know what I'm saying? Just so that way you can understand how good you'll actually become it. It's almost like, when you're playing basketball. Each day you put those reps in. After about, a month, you start to see a change in, your form of your jump shot if you're doing the right things. You know what I'm saying? You start to see, more strength in your shot. You start to see more strength in your ball handling, your defense. All those things start to show some inkling of improvement for you from where you started. So, the main thing is, does every design communicate clearly? Does every detail support the concept? Is anything distracting from the main idea? Am I adding because it improves the design, or because I'm afraid it's not enough? And that's the biggest question. Am I really afraid that it's not enough and I just gotta overload this motherfucker? And that's never not the case. A lot of times, your designs don't do well because enough people ain't seen them and the right audience ain't see it. That's mainly the main reason. But, you also got to learn these steps as well too, so that way, you can differentiate yourself from the crowd. When it comes to sketching, I don't even sketch no more. I'll stop sketching probably about like a year or two of me owning my brand. I've just been using Canva and Adobe Illustrator primarily for all my designs and, just the overall design process. When it comes to, revising, it's a lot easier as well too, just for the simple fact that, you can instantly remove, re-add, different details as well too. So that's why I really fuck with, my phone and also the laptop as well too, just so that way, number one, it's a easier place to store the ideas, and number two, it's just ultimately a good way to, be engaged with your designs. Throwing away ideas, I don't ever really throw away any ideas, because of the simple fact that you can always come back to a design, and it may have certain elements in that design that can ultimately, go with another piece. Starting over, there's times where, I might start over, but that's rarely ever happen. And that's just because the design overall just did not align with anything I was thinking at the time. And I'll probably say that's probably happened about 2-3 times. That probably was mainly, when I first started out. As of now, I've never really started over. Like, everything I've been putting out is pretty much consistent to everything that I've been putting together. You know, refining proportions. You know what I'm saying? Most people see version 20. They never see the version 1 through 19. You feel me? So saying no to good ideas is one of the hardest lessons in design. You feel me? You know, not every good idea belongs in, the same project. Multiple concepts, competing with each other, mixing too many inspirations, trying, to satisfy everyone, losing the overall version of, the design. The question you really got to come down to is, can a good idea become a bad decision if it doesn't fit the larger concept? And sometimes it be like that. So, the answer is yes. A designer's job isn't collecting ideas, it's choosing the right ones. Imagine, making a playlist. Every song might be excellent. That doesn't mean every song belongs on the same album, you feel me? Or belongs on that playlist. Like, same applies to your collection. There might even be some fire pieces that, you may think align, but when you look at it as a whole, it really doesn't. So, like I said, it's almost like the definition or, the difference between, simplicity and emptiness. Just got to understand which ones you're dealing with at the time. And, why luxury often feels effortless for great designers. Luxury isn't accidental. It feels effortless because, enormous effort went into removing distractions. Precision, materials, construction, balance, proportion, consistency, and confidence all brings together luxury pieces. And the reason why these things exist in it is because, number one, precision is always needed when you're putting together high quality products, no matter what the field. Even making sure that the materials are A1. Knowing that the construction of the product will hold for years to come. Making sure there's balance within all aspects of the design. Proportion. Making sure the placement of each, design pattern or, just color patches, seams, things of that sort are all in the right place. You feel me? And then ultimately, there's consistency within the design language. Consistency, with the patterns. And ultimately, luxury rarely needs to shout out loud. It's a piece that, stands on its own and speaks for itself type situation. You feel me? It communicates through fit, quality, detail, and craftsmanship. You feel me? Confidence doesn't need to be loud. The strongest brands don't constantly ask for attention. They earn it. Luxury is often about, what wasn't added, the discipline of, leaving things out. The greatest creative skill isn't adding. It's knowing when to, stop adding things and to actually, decide whether, things have full, meaning and consistency. Questions I want you to, walk away with primarily is, what could you remove from your current project? What distractions are keeping your work from being, clearer? And are you editing to impress people or editing to communicate better? That's the key right there. Are you editing to impress people or to communicate better? Restraint beyond design normally taps in with your schedule, your content, you know what I'm saying, your wardrobe, communication, your business decisions. Restraint applies to leadership just as much as creativity. You know what I'm saying? More commitments aren't always better. You know what I'm saying? More products don't always build a stronger brand, and more content doesn't always create more value. Sometimes growth comes from removing what no longer serves the vision. You feel me? So, restraint is one of the clearest signs of, creative maturity early in our journey. We try to, you know what I'm saying, prove ourselves by adding more as we, grow. We realize that, you know, every unnecessary element, weakens the message. Great designers don't remove ideas because they lack imagination. They remove them because they have and know exactly what deserves attention. The power of restraint isn't about doing less. It's about making every decision matter. It's almost like playing basketball, baby. You trying to go at least over 50% with your jump shot. So, you know what I'm saying? You want to be clutch with everything you put out. And that's ultimately, what we trying to do here at Dreams of Rulers as far as like the behind the scenes gems that we give out. You feel me? We just trying to help you get to where you want to ultimately be, so that way you can see yourself as who you should. You know what I'm saying? The king and queens that you are, the star that you are. But with everything, it takes, different elements, different rules, different, codes, different, principles in order to succeed. And when it comes to design, the small details count no matter what, you feel me? So all I try to do is just try to give y'all those small details so y'all know what's up, so y'all know exactly what y'all need to do in order to succeed. And you know what I'm saying? That's what I'll continue to do as I exist in this world, you feel me? So all I ask is that, you put a solid plan together, do the solid research and execute that motherfucker and make your dreams and goals come to fruition. I appreciate all y'all for tapping in with me today. Make sure you check out our From the Mud collection as well too. It's on our website. We also have the, spoken word album available so you can catch a vibe. So on all streaming platforms. And we also got our book From the Mud available on all book platforms, even at your local library. So go tap in. Appreciate all y'all for showing up, tapping into the chat, you know, checking on my well-being as well too. I appreciate that. Appreciate, y'all, continuing to support and, show us love here at Dreams of Rulers. We're just trying to grow. Like I said, try to give y'all as many gems we possibly can while also giving y'all high quality products as well too. So keep visualizing. I'll catch y'all on the next stream tomorrow. I'm out.